I'm not an overnight success. I didn't blow up to 10 million followers overnight, but God, am I so happy I'm on this journey and I have no regrets. And in a year, I learned so much about myself. My confidence has gone through the roof. Like I can talk to anybody now because if you put yourself out every day, like your fear around judgment or what people think, it goes away. And now I feel like I've earned the right to maybe have that overnight success.
Pull up a chair. You're sitting at the table with Powerhouse Women, the podcast where bold women in business come to connect, collaborate, and build something bigger than themselves.
We always say, if you're fortunate to have a seat at the table, pull up 3 more. That's exactly what we're doing here.
This isn't just a conversation, it's a movement. We're creating space at the table for conversations that matter. The ones that challenge you, push you, and remind you that you do not have to do this alone.
Every episode, we're talking growth, success, and the real, unfiltered truths of entrepreneurship. No gatekeeping,
no fluff, just the perspective and community that you need to thrive. So, if you're ready to surround yourself with women who get it, you're in the right place, and there is already a seat with your name on it.
What's up, Powerhouses? Today, we're pulling up a chair for Haley Dawood. She is an entrepreneur, event planner, and content creator, and the owner and chief huntress of The Idea Hunter, an award-winning corporate event agency trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. Haley was the youngest person to ever receive the Canadian Event Professional of the Year award, and she grew a second-generation family business into a leading creative event agency in Canada. Welcome, Haley.
Hi, Carly. I am so excited to be here.
I'm happy to have you today. There's so much for us to dive into. I always enjoy like watching you and seeing your growth and everything you're doing with your company and your content. And, this podcast is really just us pulling up seats at the table for inspiring women who are doing so much in their industry. And you're such a wonderful guest.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have to tell you, I'm a big fan. And something I didn't tell you was that my sister actually had sent me your podcast about 2 months ago and was like, oh my God, you have to be on this podcast. And I actually started drafting an email to you guys to like see if I could be on. And then I stopped midway through and I was like, you know what? If the universe wants it to work out, we'll connect, we'll figure it out. And I swear you emailed me a month and a half later. So when I say I'm excited to be here, I really genuinely am because I feel like the universe truly aligned. And I was actually kind of shocked that it worked out that quickly.
What would we do without the universe? I'm so happy that it worked out and I'm so happy to have you here today. So I think I'd love to just kind of like start with a little bit of background about you, have you kind of introduce yourself a little bit. You've been able to achieve so much success in your business and you have so much to share. But I think let's kind of like take it back and talk about the beginning of your journey and your career and what did that look like?
Yes, I graduated from, I'll go back to graduating because I feel like it did start there. Graduated business school, went to work in marketing, Pepsi and General Mills, thinking the big brand marketing job was the right path for me. And when I got into those roles, it was never like a perfect fit. It was just in the middle. So it was good. It was good enough for me to stay, try and keep figuring it out. But I didn't feel like I was really excelling. And then I lost my job. So they did a massive restructure when I was at General Mills and I was 25. I lost my job, which was partly a relief, but then also very scary because I just entered the workforce and didn't really understand that you could just lose your job that quickly. Thankfully, my mom had this events company that was running out of her basement. And I was really determined not to go back into a career that wasn't the right fit, but I also didn't know what the right fit was. So I thought, you know what? Why don't I help her for just like a couple months? It'll give me time so I don't rush into the wrong thing. And that's really how I ended up in events. So she welcomed me right in and I joined her. It was just her in a basement with like an assistant. And I was like, okay, don't buy me anything. I'm just here for a couple months. I'll help you guys get through your busy season. And then I'm going to be on my way. So don't buy me a laptop. Don't even buy me a desk or a chair. Like I would grab a kitchen table, a chair every day. I didn't want to feel guilty leaving. And that was 10 years ago. So I ended up getting a proper laptop and chair, but I decided to stay.
Wow. I had no idea that that was kind of how you got into it. So you didn't know from the beginning, like even when you didn't study anything with events or hospitality in college, that wasn't your background.
No, not at all. It was probably one of my insecurities coming into the business was that I had no event knowledge. I didn't know anything. Thankfully, I got to sit beside my mom and really like listen to everything she said. And then I was very observant on site. I would listen to other event planners, see what they did, see what questions they asked. I was very curious, so I would ask a lot of questions while I was at events. So I was really learning from everybody around me. But what I also learned was that events is multifaceted. It's not just event education and technical knowledge, it's project management, it's human connection. It's curiosity of what works, what doesn't, learning a million different things because you literally are a wealth of knowledge when you're an event planner, the amount of things that you touch and see and experience. So, my business background and my marketing and sales background was actually very applicable to events. So while I maybe lacked in some areas, I actually really excelled in others in comparison to other event planners that I was working with.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you had all these skills that they didn't have. You know what I mean? That maybe sometimes people don't even recognize as something that you would need or that could add value in that industry, but you had those skills, so you were able to make that connection early on. I'm curious, what was the experience like losing your job when you were 25? Because I've also been through that. And for me, it was devastating and shocking and like very tough on my mental state. And I think, a lot of people listening, I'm sure, have been through that experience as well. Even during COVID, so many people were laid off. So how did that kind of like affect you?
I would say that thankfully, because my mom, I did have this option. I didn't have to sit in it for so long, but I truly still remember that day on my couch. It was like the next day that I had woken up and I felt like I had no purpose. Nobody knew me, nobody needed me, and nobody would even know what I was doing. Like there was nowhere to check in, there was no one that cared if I was awake. And that felt really lonely, that feeling. And that's what provoked me to call my mom that day. Again, I'm very grateful that I had somebody to call and be able to jump in. But what I will say too is like I have to give myself some credit. I obviously that sounds like, oh, how convenient. Like your parents have a business. Great. But you know what? It wasn't convenient. I took a massive pay cut. I lost all my health benefits. I had to drive, I'm in Toronto. I had to drive up to the suburbs. That's where my mom's office was. And she expected me to be in there 5 days a week. There was no working from home. So it was not convenient, but it was 100% better than me sitting at home and feeling lost. I will say that I would have done anything to get out of my house. I'm a doer, so I would have got a job at Starbucks. I would have been a waitress. Anything that could have given me purpose at that time, I know I would have figured out even if I didn't have my mom. But yes, it was not, it does sound like an easy next step, but it was not the easiest. And also my identity at that point. I went from being I graduated from a very respectable business school. I was working for brands that were highly coveted jobs that everybody wanted. Now I took this massive pay cut and I'm working as an event planner, which I didn't really know that profession. So early on, I didn't know if it was a respectable job or something that just kind of seemed fun. And oh, I'm a party planner. That's. So there was a lot of adjustments there with my identity aspect and, wanting people to like look at me and think, wow, she's so smart. She's doing something so great with her career. So that transition was tough, but obviously I made it through that and it was worth sticking it out.
I love that you talk about identity and purpose specifically, because I think that you and I are probably similar in that respect. And I think a lot of people that are like doers, a lot of what you do is associated with your identity, and what you do gives you purpose. And I actually spoke about this on one of our other podcasts, that at the end of the day in life, everybody needs to find purpose from something. For some people, it's their career. From other people, it's a hobby that they love. Other people, it's motherhood or family, or, there's a variety of different things. But it sounds like for you, a lot of your purpose is, and, correct me if I'm wrong, but comes from like what you're achieving and doing things. And like, so I can absolutely relate to that.
Yeah. That's why I find it interesting when people are so obsessed with this concept of retirement. And my family, like people don't retire. I was I guess, blessed to be raised by a lot of entrepreneurs. My aunt, my mom, my dad, like my grandfather. I was just around entrepreneurs so much. It was very normal to me to be around entrepreneurs. But I always tell people, like, they're like, oh, my parents won't retire. I just want them to retire. And it's like, a lot of people don't want to wake up with no purpose, and they're scared that if they give up what they're doing, I agree, you can fill it with maybe grandkids or find something else, but it's not that easy to just wake up and find purpose. Like, I think if you have found a purpose and you have found a place in this world where you add value, it's not the easiest thing to let go of. So I actually have a lot of empathy for entrepreneurs who are aging out and retiring, that it's not necessarily this goalpost for everybody.
I would 100% agree. And, you know, maybe you're a person who, okay, you found purpose from your work and you can transition that into doing something like charitable that has more flexibility, that's not work, you know, that's the ideal if you are a person that's a doer. But like you're saying, it's not that easy. And I think you retiring is something you and I would probably both struggle with.
Maybe we'll retire together.
Maybe.
We'll create the retiree club and then we'll manage that.
Sounds great. So let's track back to the Idea Hunter a little bit. I want to talk about, what does it look like now? And I'm also curious. So really what I'd like to know is, how do you think timing played a role in everything? Because obviously your mom had this business. It was very different than what it is today, which we'll get into more. Is your mom still involved in the business? Is she still working with you? Did timing play a role in that at all?
Timing is a beautiful thing. I worked with my mom for about 5 years, and then the pandemic hit. My mom and I were very different. It's so interesting because together we grew the company successfully because we both brought our own skill set, which complemented the other. But there was also challenges when you work with family, and anybody that works with family can appreciate that there's going to be challenges along the way. And then layering on the fact that I was younger, still kind of maturing into a leader, but had actually quite a lot of responsibility on my plate as we were growing. So that dynamic, when the pandemic hit and we let our employees go, I felt that I was ready to go back to being a mom-daughter relationship, and that kind of the stress of trying to be running this business together was a bit too much for me. And I bring this up because that is when my mom offered for me to purchase the business from her. So it's interesting timing because, again, the pandemic, without that, without kind of going back to zero, that probably would have not presented itself the way that it did. Then spending the next about 3 years growing the business back on my own. And that's when my husband started to recognize, hey, I can help you with this, or hey, I noticed this. And then he ended up leaving his job. So as he was offering more and more help organically behind the scenes, he was just kind of growing a role for himself. And it wasn't overnight, it was just a very organic thing. Eventually, I looked at him and I was like, you should really be working with us full time because you're incredible at growing a small business. Like, honestly, if you put my husband in any small business, he will triple it. Like, it's actually wild what his ability is. And then this past summer, because it's been about, I guess you could say about 2 years now that we've been working together. But this past summer, we actually made him the president of the company because I just felt like that was really the right role for him. And I dedicated my role more to being the chief huntress, which is really overseeing our accounts and our clients and the ideas going out to them, training our sales team, and then being in charge of all content and marketing. So definitely timing really did kind of play a role when you kind of look at that timeline of all the things that happened. Nothing could have been forced. It was just organic and really happened as it did. But of course, when you're a child and your parent owns a business, like I've met so many kids where their parents they're like, okay, I think my dad will maybe be willing to retire in a year. And I'm like, I get it. Like, they don't want to let go. It is hard to make that transition, but I think timing did work out for me in a good way. And for my mom, and sorry, you asked me if my mom's still involved in the business. So no, we did decide that it was best to be very black and white in the transition. I can't own and run the business if she still feels kind of like she's the owner. I think going back to identity, how do you go from being the owner to then just being somebody that maybe offers advice? So she went off and has been doing, to your point, a lot of actually like charity give back type work with mental health within the event community. So she's done some really impactful work in that space, and it's given her now a new purpose to achieve and given me space and my husband space to make the Idea Hunter what we want it to be. But we've definitely honored her and really want her to be proud of what we're doing, because ultimately we wouldn't have this opportunity if it wasn't for all the sacrifices that she made to build the business.
Absolutely. It's incredible how timing works, because I think, everything really did have to align. And to the outsider, they would probably say the timing didn't sound ideal, because it sounds like you purchased the business from your mom kind of during the pandemic.
Oh yeah, smack dab.
So in events, like that, to most people, that would be a very scary time, or people were probably doing the opposite. They were probably closing down their businesses. How did you guys navigate that? Did it affect your business in any way? Were you scared from it?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think I went into survival mode and I don't really know if I had much choice. I don't know if I was sitting there and I'm like, okay, we should do this or this. What happened was the pandemic hit in about March. We thought we could hold on to our employees. We did. We held on as long as we could. And then April came around and we realized, okay, this is unfortunately, we will have to temporarily lay everybody off. And then we started trying to close down our office, which I was happy about because I really been driving an hour up there and back every day. So that wasn't that sad. So I was running a Facebook marketplace business, honestly, for a month. And then one day I'm in the office wrapping things up, for that next buyer to come through and buy my little frame from my wall. And my phone rings and a client. So I was very distracted, I think. I will say that. I always just kept myself busy. I don't know if that's like a natural safety mode, but I just know, like, now I'm running a Facebook marketplace. It's like, I just always find something to do, I guess. And then my phone rings. I wasn't even overthinking this whole situation. My phone rings, a client calls, and they're like, hey, Haley, we're going to be running a virtual event and we need cocktail kits. And I was like, okay. I think what worked to my benefit was that I looked at the Idea Hunter. We've always been, and for context for listeners, we are an a la carte and full corporate event management company. And we have one of the largest databases of entertainment and interactive add-ons for events in Canada. People call us when they need options, they need ideas, they need solutions. And I think I just went back to the crux of what we do. And I think this goes for a lot. Like, is Airbnb really a rental, or is it that, it's like, is McDonald's really this, or is it real estate? It goes back to like Idea Hunter. Like, are we really an event company, or do we like solve problems? Do we find resources that correct a problem for somebody? So I thought, who cares if it's virtual? Who cares what it is? At the end of the day, Haley, can you figure out how to get cocktail kits in the hands of these people? And the first thing I did was I think about my Rolodex. This is how I handle every problem. Who can I call? Who would know how to do this? So the first person I call is my sister. She was working at Bacardi at the time, still does, incredible company. And all their ambassadors were laid off. Or sorry, not laid off. They couldn't sample in bars. So she said, if you put Bacardi product in those kits, I can get you the ambassadors to run the classes online. And I was like, this is incredible. Like, I'm getting the ambassador Patron tequila to run our clients' event. Like, our clients are going to be ecstatic about this. Like, this is not just a solution. This is like a premium option. And now we're getting the person that knows the product the best. So they're getting like the best education on tequila or goose or whatever the product was, the gin that we put in there. Obviously, our first kits were not the nicest. Like, I'm learning logistics, shipping. I sent pineapple juice, which is not great in the summer if it's not refrigerated. So I was driving around Toronto replacing pineapple juices. But you know what? It got us in the door. People were so understanding at that time. They knew that this was new, and we perfected it. We corrected it. I started learning what cocktails to sell, which ones wouldn't ship well. So I just learned and course corrected really, really quickly. But I to your question, like, were you nervous buying it? Again, I think I was just so focused, and that's just how I am. I was so focused on the projects that started because, one person says, "Oh, Haley just did this for me at the Idea Hunter, you should call her." And now all of a sudden the calls are rolling in and I'm solving problem after problem after problem. Well, within 5 months, I have a full database of ideas now to sell because I've now executed and tested all of them. And again, the learning went on for another year of just figuring all these gaming, bingo, trivia, you name it. Like, we learned everything. But I always knew that the Idea Hunter was useful. I think that's what drove me to be very confident to purchase it. There was just something in the nature of our business that we help people solve these complex problems, that I just knew it wasn't about live events or virtual events. People will always need my help to solve a problem. Yes, of course, I had a couple moments where I remember assigning the documents and I had to pay my mom like a certain amount every month. Honestly, it's such a small amount now, like you would laugh, but I'm like crying outside and like my husband's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "What if I can't pay this?" And now I would like, don't even notice it leaving my account, like not at all. But those moments when it became really real that I'm like, okay, shoot, like I actually have to pay this every single month. I got a little nervous, but other than that, honestly, I'd say like 90% of the time I just focused on the job and the money was coming in and I wasn't putting my energy on the fear around it.
Well, every entrepreneur has to go through those moments, right? Even if they're few and far between, like you have to have those moments where you're a little bit like, oh shoot, what's going to happen next? So, I definitely understand that. But I think what you said is really valuable. I think that at the end of the day, it all comes down to knowing your value and like being confident in that. And when you know your value, you are naturally so much more confident, right? And like you were very clear on this is what we provide. Like we're always going to be solutions driven and people are always going to have problems. So, I can definitely relate to that. I'd love to talk a little bit more about the Idea Hunter because you guys do so much. You have an incredible roster of clients from Google, Blue Jays, McDonald's, huge clients. Do you ever get like pinch me moment? Like these are the people that we're working with and like these are the large scale events that we get to do?
I would say that I feel like recently I've been getting some major pinch me moments because, yeah, I'll take a step back again just for context for listeners. I've had a lot of people say, like, what does the Idea Hunter do? Because we've grown so much, like every year we grow. And then people ask me, well, who are your competitors? But I think because I see us as a problem solving machine, which events is actually like a collection of problems that you're essentially solving or objectives. Their problems can seem negative, objectives or goals that you're trying to achieve. And you're bringing in the right tools, people, services to achieve each one of those elements to create and design an entire event. So yeah, bringing people together, but over time, we started in entertainment. That was our crux. That was like our bread and butter. You came to us for add-ons for your event. And then we branched into decor because we're like, you know what, to really create a whole experience, having some say in the design and how the entertainment all comes together in a theme would be, it would just give us so much more control over the event, so much more direct access to the end client versus just being this kind of vendor, servicer to other event planners and producers in the city. And of course, now we're doing full event management because if you have that natural curiosity and desire to learn, which I really do, and I think some people, sometimes they see your growth and they think, oh, they're coming for us. And I always say to people, I'm like, I have a desire to learn. Like, I just think you need to understand, like, I'm not coming after you. I'm coming after myself. Like, I'm not going to stay the same. I'm not going to sell entertainment for the next 60 years of my life. Like, I can just tell you that right now. So please know that it's my desire to grow. And I don't think you should ever stunt somebody else's desire to learn more. If you're happy with where you're at, awesome. But some of us want to keep learning and expanding our skill set. I can sell entertainment in my sleep. I'm like ready for the next thing. So that's how the growth has come to be. Where I would say the pinch me moments have come from is like our contract sizes now. That's honestly the pinch me moments, because I hate to say I'm like jaded a little bit, but like I have been working with big names basically since I joined my mom. Like and I have to give her a lot of credit. Like she really got us in with a lot of those companies. So I have kind of been used to seeing like MAC Cosmetics, Air Canada Vacations, Blue Jays for kind of my whole career. So I'm used to working with that type of client. But I would say now it's more the size of the opportunity that people are giving us. We're doing like 4-day events now instead of 1-day event. We're working on just like we're bidding on FIFA coming into Toronto right now, and we're like one of the top agencies in consideration. It's like an honor, and truly like hard to describe how that feels, because I will say event professionals in Toronto are incredibly talented. Like this is not a city where it's tough competition, and you have really, really talented people. So to be at that top list where people have the Idea Hunter in consideration of one of their top choices, it's a huge compliment and like a huge testament to the amount of work we've put in, and how much we care about our service and the quality of what we deliver.
Do you think that's something that sets you guys apart, like in terms of why people are calling you and why they are choosing you time and time again? Is it because of your service? And is there something that you guys are doing differently to continuously excel than, potentially other companies are not doing?
I would say 1,000%. And honestly, it shocks me because I don't think it's that hard to do the obvious, but I will say that people underestimate the obvious. I don't think that you need to be the most creative in this city. There's two things we do that time and time again have secured the highest client retention and referrals, and the reason we continue to grow. One is we respond pretty much within 24 hours, but I would even consider if we are responding to a client within 24 hours, we're already late. Ideally, every client gets a response same day. You would think that is like such a simple thing to do. The amount of times we're chasing vendors and like begging them for responses, it is not that common. And then the second thing is that every single thing we say, we deliver on. Our contracts are iron. Like everything in there will happen at your event. And if it doesn't, for like the 0.2% that it could maybe not happen, we will refund you. I'm a very black and white person, and it even came up in one of my personality tests that I'm very fair. Like fairness matters to me. So, but I hold other people accountable to being fair, but I hold myself accountable to being fair. So if I feel that like, hey, this was in our contract, this is exactly what we stated, and if it was not exactly the way it was executed, then we owe that client a refund. So we spend a lot of time like on those contracts, but because our clients, trust is everything. And I think you can experience that in the real estate side of things. Trust is so important. Like somebody who is slightly, and I'm not saying we're less creative, I'm just saying in an industry that people think creativity wins, I disagree. In our industry, event planners are the top 5 most stressed jobs, most stressful careers that you can have amongst firefighters and police officers. Who do you think a police officer wants to run into a situation with? Somebody that they trust. Okay, so when we're dealing with high stress, and I'm not saying we're police officers, but when you're dealing with high stress, I just want to clarify, tight timelines, who do you want to work with? Somebody that you trust. So they are not shopping just creativity. That is one component. Trust is everything. And you can see it in our Google reviews, and we fight day in and day out to maintain that level of trust with our clients. And it kills me. If you want to see me upset, you want to see me get really upset, it's when I feel that we lost the trust of somebody, or I said something and it didn't execute the way that I said it would. That's like the thing that gets me the most. And I will go out of my way to be accountable for it, apologize for it, and offer some sort of refund or something for it.
I love that, because I think those are two things that honestly can translate to the majority of industries. And they're two things that are very often overlooked, like being punctual and speed and your response rate, like 100%. I've had people tell me, like, we called another realtor and they didn't answer, and we called you and you picked up right away. So like, it's same level of service, I think, across so many industries. And same thing with trust, like these seem like very basic things, but unfortunately you've seen, time and time again that that's not always the case. And it's surprising, but it's like, if you can just nail those things, then you're already a step above the rest. And it also instills so much more confidence in you, I think, because you do know that those are your strong suits. I am curious what personality test that came up in, because now I want to take it and see if it would come up for me. I am the same way. Like, through and through. I think about this all the time. Like there's always, like stressful things with contracts and real estate, and like you have somebody's deposit, right? Who's like, if something goes wrong, they could lose their deposit. And I always think that's never happened to me, thank God. But I always think like, what would I do in that situation if I made a mistake and I caused someone to lose like a massive deposit? I'm like, I would have to give them the money out of my own pocket, like because I'm the
Yeah.
same way as you. Like I'm so fair that like I just think I couldn't sleep at night and like live with myself if I didn't do the right thing. So I need
I
to
feel like you and I would be the same personality test. I think that's why we get along so well when we first connected. It's the Enneagram personality test, and you can be anywhere from a 1 to a 9. I won't get into it, obviously, but I'm an Enneagram 3, which is a competitive achiever. So it was very helpful to learn my personality test, but I've done this with my family, I've done it with my team. I love knowing people's personality types.
I love it. We actually did a whole Powerhouse Women call about personality tests, and just talking about like why they're important and like the different ones and what that could mean like towards your career. I took the Enneagram a few years ago, more than a few years ago. And I don't fully remember what my number was, but I also feel like I'm such a different person now than I was then, just in terms of like growth. So I'm curious if it would be something different.
It was interesting though, because I wanted my team to do it. And I'm a natural seeker of feedback and personal growth. I am like addicted to personal growth. And I got a lot of pushback. Like my team really didn't want to be, I think my takeaway was that they didn't want to be categorized in fear that it would impact their performance reviews or how I viewed them. So I really had to be sensitive in how I presented it and realizing that, oh, maybe there's more to it that like I might perceive about them. So I had to really reposition and kind of sell them on the idea of like why we were doing this and how. So just as a business owner to other business owners out there, be careful that not everyone on your team is going to love taking a personality test as much as we do. I could do that as like
That
a hobby. Give me
that
a
fully
personality
makes
test for my
sense.
birthday.
Now I know what to gift you.
Yeah, Secret Santa.
It's actually a lovely segue because I really did want to talk to you about leadership too. Obviously you've grown this company and now you have several employees. You can tell us how many, but um, what was that like for you? Like, do you feel like you were a natural born leader and maybe it just needed to be like exercised or pulled out of you a little bit more? Or were there a lot of skills that you had to learn? What did that look like?
Gosh, leadership is challenging and managing people is challenging for sure. We're a team of 10 now, including my husband and I. I've gone through a lot of learning on leadership. I do think I am a natural born leader. I do think I have a lot of natural abilities, but do I think I'm the best? No, I definitely still have room to grow into being a better leader. And I do really reflect on this a lot. When I first started, okay, actually, I'll even go back to when my mom owned the business because I still had a lot of leadership and authority in that office just because obviously the owner was my mom. And I was definitely befriending everybody and, the old don't be friends with your employees. So when I restarted after the pandemic, because I actually ended up with a whole new team, because everybody that got laid off ended up finding jobs. We helped some of them, which was great. But when I started new, I said, okay, Haley, like you cannot be friends with your employees. Like this is a chance to kind of restart. That was really, really helpful. I still believe it till this day. I do think some people are kind of born with the natural gift where they're somehow able to be super, super friendly and also really assertive. And I just think, honestly, it's a little bit of magic in them. I don't know how else to say it. I just think some people get away with it and some people don't. And I don't feel like I was born with that magic stick to be able to do that. So I do have to be a little bit more clear with myself and my boundaries with my team. The other thing too that my team is used to with me now is that I'm very direct with feedback, no matter how much I don't want to do it and how much I cringe at having to look at them and be very direct. But obviously we've all heard it. Like if you're not direct with your team, then they get time for promotion and you're not promoting them and they don't know why, then they're going to be more upset with you than had you done it in the first place. And the nice thing about it is I actually have seen a lot of people grow under my leadership, even though I'm not always liked, I'm not always your favorite. I do think I'm fair. I do think when I give you feedback, I do try and acknowledge you. I try and acknowledge where I think you were coming from or what I think maybe happened because I do look at perspective. So I really don't just try and come down on people, obviously, but we hold a high standard. I have a high standard for myself. We hold a high standard for our team. We have had people leave because they couldn't meet that standard, but I'm okay with that. And the bigger we get, the more direct I have to be and the more clear I have to be. But I will be very direct with you. And then I will also celebrate the heck out of you when you win. I've always looked at it as kind of being a coach on a field. And I'm always like, well, your coach doesn't give the players hugs all day long. He's telling them or she's telling them what they need to improve on. I will say in the beginning, when I was actually trying to get more comfortable with giving direct feedback, like not scaring away from it, that I realized I was so focused on actually training myself how to do that, that I actually realized I was lacking a lot of positive feedback. It was more because I was actually trying to get better at it that I was so focused on being more comfortable with it that I realized I was like really over indexing on feedback and not enough on positive reinforcement. So now I feel like I have a much better balance, and having Fadi in the company has been so helpful. Having a man as a leader is interesting. I'm not all about like women and men. I don't feel like, but I always tell them like, I'm not upset about it, but like there's differences. There's things you can do and have a greater impact. And there's things I can do that have a greater impact. And I do sometimes feel like his leadership has a strength to it. And I really admire it and I really respect it. And sometimes I like him to have to deal with things better than me. But I don't know. I don't know if I would say I experience everything that everybody else does, but the one thing I do like that we did this year, and sorry, I'll wrap on this point. One thing I do like that we did this year was we had the team, like we've obviously received feedback from the team and we built ourselves KPIs. So while I'm giving my team feedback and I'm doing check-ins with them quarterly on their KPIs, we'll present something to them, but I'll say, hey guys, based on Fadi and I's KPI around communicating with you guys better around changes, this is the deck that we built, because I really want them to see that we are holding ourselves accountable to the KPIs. We are taking your feedback so that they don't feel like it's always them getting the feedback. And I want to show them that like we loved your feedback. We actually think you guys were bang on and we were really not showing up in this particular way. And we're so excited that like we have this new process and these new town halls that we're doing with you guys based on the KPI that we set. And we want you guys to tell us at the end of the year how we achieved on that KPI. So stuff like that is starting to get a little bit easier with the team and feeling like we're all improving, not just us looking at them and saying, hey, you guys have to do better.
I love it. It's leading by example. And it also shows that you do really value them and you value their input and you're not afraid to also hold yourself accountable. And that I think is huge from a leader, because there's nothing worse, than when leaders are just dictating and telling and, sometimes things can feel negative. So like someone who's also willing to do the work themselves and, show that they're holding themselves to a standard, I think is truly invaluable.
Yeah. And we apologize. We do apologize. I just apologize. Just say you're sorry. It's so much better. It's so much better. And it does build that trust and it builds that relationship with them. So
100%. I'd love to shift gears a little bit and talk about content creation with you, because
I love content creation.
I know. And when we first met, so for anyone who doesn't know, Haley and I met through her sister, actually, her twin sister. And when we first met, I think is when you were kind of like getting into your content creation, or at least when I met Brittany, I would say is when you were kind of like getting into your content creation journey. Talk to me a little bit about what that was like why you decided to start putting yourself out there more on the internet. And also like, was it comfortable at first? Were there hurdles? What was that like for you?
Yeah, it's been just over a year since I really went serious about being a content creator. It's obviously been a few years that I've been dabbling in it or playing around with it. But in the last year, I've been posting every day, really building a personal brand, consistent content and whatnot. It was for sure like a soul calling. It was just something I knew that I was really drawn to. I've always loved producing videos, stories. I remember when Brittany and I were in marketing school and we would do presentations. we were already like, if we had to describe our target market, we had our stepbrother film himself saying like, I'm 26, I'm a male in whatever. Like we were doing video before like people were doing video. Like we would put that in it. We had video for everything. We just loved it. So it felt really natural to do it. I think the biggest hurdle was like, okay, great, you love video, you love being in it, but like, what do I actually film? Instagram is very overwhelming. It's complex. It's changing constantly. You're inundated with content. So you're like, okay, am I like her? Should I do it like her? So luckily, creator method, which I think a lot of people probably know by now, or maybe I'm just in that world, so it's become very familiar to me. But Valeria Lipovetsky and Gary Lipovetsky, they formerly lived in Toronto, moved to Miami, and she's a huge content creator, very well known, over 1 million followers, maybe more than that. They created a group called Creator Method, and it was designed to help content creators have a community and learn together. It happened to stumble upon my Instagram. It got fed to me because I was following Valeria, and it was like, hey, we're doing this seminar. And I joined when they like literally just started it. So it still had some kinks and bumps, but I will give it to them. They've done an absolutely incredible job at building this community up in a very short period of time. And I was like, okay, you know what? If I want to learn something new, if I want to try something new, I'm going to have to learn from somebody because I don't know who can teach me this. So I thought, you know what? This is the perfect thing for me to join. So I got in, I joined, and I had one call. You get one call with Gary. And I remember, unfortunately, it was kind of a waste, not on his part, for me, because I had the Idea Hunter at the time. This is a big thing that business owners struggle with. I had the Idea Hunter Instagram already going. And then I had this really innate desire to be somebody, like have Haley Dawood as a brand. And I remember getting on the call, and I think my husband expected like us to be really focused on the Idea Hunter page. And then the whole conversation ended up being around like, should we do Idea Hunter or Haley? So I never really got like the best insight on one account because unfortunately I went into the call not well prepared to have that conversation. And still, I think I was a little nervous to say like I really wanted it to be the Haley account. Also because I can only fully express myself on a business page so much if I have a team. What I post on there, in my opinion, reflects our entire company. So it's not really fair to them for me to start showing my get ready outfits. Like that's not reflective of the Idea Hunter. So anyways, I called my sister after that, and I felt really emotional about it. I think because it just like mattered to me so much. And I think it just deep down inside, I think I knew like this was something I really wanted. And I love my sister. I'll never forget this moment. I was like, should I do the Idea Hunter and just go all in and keep building it out and make it just like amazing, this amazing business Instagram page? Or should I do Haley? I'm only at like 600 followers. I'm a private account. I have like no storyline, nothing. And she was like 100% Haley. Like she didn't even like flinch. She's like, Haley, this is what you want. Like you're so good at it. You're gonna do it. And her saying that was like everything I needed to hear. And then I went all in, and I was actually posting 2 reels a day for probably 5 months straight. And I would say, and I think this is important, especially for somebody that might be listening who's thinking about getting into content creation. When you're first starting content, like the biggest thing is like, well, what do I say? And I just want to really express to people that you cannot explain yourself in one video, but you can explain yourself in 3 months worth of videos. So don't obsess over what you want to say. If you're getting into health and nutrition, like start with you making a morning smoothie. And then maybe the next video you're at the gym. And then maybe one you're walking your dog. Oh, wow, she has a dog. I didn't know that. Like you're not going to put your dog, your smoothie in the gym all in one reel. And your husband is all like, we're all getting into the minivan. So I think that was something like I struggled with. And I realized you have to let people get to know you over time. And then it's like phases. I honestly feel like I should write a book from like my experience being a content creator, because I think I hit every milestone that every creator does. And I'm sure, Carly, like you've been through this, where I also then got to a point recently in probably the last couple months where internally we had kind of a meeting around my content with my husband and somebody on my team who helps me. And we just realized that at the end of the day, really the most valuable content in my niche is events, because I have access to events and I have access to information that a lot of people don't have. And I really have honed in on that and kind of removed some of the other things. But those things were really valuable for the first year because I had to explore myself fully. Instagram is about learning about who you are, because you can't connect with people if you actually don't know who you are as a person. So I say explore every avenue of yourself, try any format you want to try. Like I tried everything. And now I am like honed in. I know my storyline. I know my brand. I know what I'm trying to say. And I feel like 2026 is actually going to be my best year for content. I just got my first paid brand campaign that I literally just posted yesterday. I know, I thought it was like New Year's.
Amazing.
I was like counting down before I posted. I was like, 5, 4, because it was like, scheduled for whatever. So I think like just being okay with it, I'm not an overnight success. I didn't blow up to 10 million followers overnight, but God, am I so happy I'm on this journey and I have no regrets. And in a year, I learned so much about myself. My confidence has gone through the roof. Like I can talk to anybody now because if you put yourself out every day, like your boundaries are not, sorry, boundaries not the right word. Your fear around judgment or what people think, it goes away. And it was the best journey. Like it's not even about the followers, like the person I've become. And now I feel like I have earned the right to maybe have that overnight success, but I didn't expect it early on. And there's no question it's impacted my business. Like followers are not, and I have grown like 100%. My engagement's going up and all those things are happening. I'm starting to now get that first brand deal. So things are really starting to roll in. But our business, like no question, like people see me every day. I'm always top of mind when they're referring. So there's a lot of other benefits besides just simply likes and comments. There's a lot of things that happen outside of the platform that are a result of what you're doing in the platform.
Well, congratulations, first of all, on your first brand deal, because that's so exciting. And it just shows that, I think brands also recognize when you are showing up authentically. And exactly what you said, like this whole journey has been about finding yourself and like learning yourself more. And I think that's just a testament to everything you've done so far with content creation, because now you are getting that first of many brand deals. And I think they recognize that. So that's incredible. And I love watching your content. Like you've been so consistent, which is truly one of the hardest things to do, I think, with content creation, because we don't always feel like showing up. We don't always feel like, filming or making videos. Sometimes you don't want to be in front of the camera. Sometimes you don't feel creative. There's a multitude of things that could happen, and consistency is like the number one thing that people struggle with. And you've been incredibly consistent. So I think that's something to be very proud of.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, I love when people are so honest and vulnerable. Like you had a post a couple weeks ago where you were like, I'm just not feeling as expressive right now. I'm not feeling as creative right now. And it really was so nice to see you post that because, of course, we all have our days where we don't want to pick up the camera and we don't want to film, even though we absolutely love it. And it's not a matter of us not wanting to do it. It's just that day we're not feeling it. And just you sharing that gave me not only permission to feel that way, but permission to be a bit more vulnerable and maybe share if I am having one of those days, because you made an impact on me. Could that have an impact on somebody else? So I love that. And it is definitely part of the journey of content creation. But I do want to share too, because I don't think, not everything's this perfect white picket fence outside, that as I went and learned, and I will say I was very consistent on my own, like full editing, full filming, everything by myself, 2 reels a day, which eventually did go down to 1 reel a day because I'm a business owner. I realized I'm not a full-time content creator. So I actually there was a difference. And anyways, in the spring, so I had started that last November. So in the spring, I ended up going with a company called Be Creative. They were doing my editing for me. As a company in Europe. They were actually great. I realized the editing was something I really needed help with to maintain that consistency. And then in the fall, I ended up ending the contract with them, and I moved over to a full-time in-house person on my team who now supports me. But I feel that that journey was the perfect time to make those decisions. I know a lot of content creators are like, when should I hire somebody? When should I outsource? And I would say first, I proved to myself that I was willing to show up and do this. Like this was not a novelty thing. Like I'm here, I'm dedicated. I want to get better. I want to keep improving. I want to keep doing this. And also, I think it's really good to edit your own content first, because now it's really easy for me to give feedback, to give edits to my editor and like work with him. Like we're so collaborative, him and I. You can't just, and I see a lot of business owners do this, you can't just like expect somebody else to make content for you. Like it is a team effort. And you have to have ideas. It's your emotion. It's your personal brand. Like at the end of the day, he can give me some guidance or whatever, but it's really going to come from me. And then he's an absolutely incredible editor, and I just like love working with him, and it's been so fun. But all these things have helped me be consistent. But again, I do feel like prove to yourself that you're in it, you're serious about it. And then when you are, then, start making that investment if you need it to continue to be sustainable in the amount of content that our viewers expect from us. We have to feed the audience every day.
We have to give the people what they want ultimately. But I couldn't agree with you more, because it is important to know what you like, and like in terms of editing style, and to have some creative direction. And so often people just kind of like outsource. They think they can outsource social media or online presence for their business, and you can almost tell like immediately. It depends on the type of business, I guess, but for certain things, like it does need that personal element and that personal aspect. And I know, like, at one point I was even doing social media and content creation, like for other real estate professionals. And even that was so hard, because like, if you barely know someone and you're trying to make something personal and write like them and sound like it's their voice, it's very difficult. So I think an online presence is something that you should never be too far removed from, and I think a lot of people make that mistake thinking that they can be. But that's just my 2 cents. So
I love your content. I consume it every day, and it's I just love it. You bring like this energy, this brightness, this happiness. You also bring me to Miami, which, being in Toronto, I just love seeing video of Miami, but I just love your energy. I love watching the content. It's so good and it's so creative. And I know you get some like really awesome editors, especially for your real estate stuff, and that stuff I love. But I also love your organic stories and the stuff you do. It's just fun to watch you.
Thank you. Well, I feel the same about you. And some of your favorite content for me is actually your wellness content, because you
Mm.
are very into wellness. And I see you in front of your huge red light, and I see you at the gym on the leg press. I know wellness is very important to you. From what I know about you, I think physical wellness, I think mental wellness is also very important to you, which ties into personal development. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the role that those two things kind of play in your life, especially being an entrepreneur.
It has played a big role in my life for my whole life. And I've gone through a similar journey that I think a lot of people have with, being happy with your body and exploring your body and understanding it. My journey goes back to like literally being 12 years old and having a gym membership and wanting to figure out how to manage my weight and things like that. But the most successful thing that I did, like if I just fast forward, was working with a company called Physique Physicians. They are a virtual platform, like not platform, but like a virtual company, so they can work with people everywhere. And it was a game changer for me, because with work, we go through these busy periods. And I remember coming off like a really successful period, but I felt like I was ordering in so much food and not getting to the gym. And so I remember being on a trip in Morocco. I was on this entrepreneurs trip, and one of the things that they asked us to do was write down like something that we really want to focus on when we get back home. And I remember really feeling strongly that I needed to focus on me, not the business, on me. And I came home and I knew I was like, and again, because I've had decades already at this point of gym and fitness, like I know what that means for myself. It means, Haley, we're going to like hone in on this and like, stop playing some games here and get serious about our fitness, our health, and everything. My biggest problem is I didn't know what I was going to do. I knew I needed to do something. I knew I needed to start, but I didn't know what program I wanted to go on. Did I want to get a personal trainer? Like, what was my next move? And it's funny how the universe brings things to you, because I got home and my friend posted, she's never talked to me about this before. We weren't friends when she had done the program. I had met her after, and she had never talked about it. And she just happens to post a story about a cut that she had just done with Physique Physicians. And she was like, "Oh, I learned this when I worked with Physique Physicians." So I click on the tag, takes me to the Physique Physicians web page, and I'm like, okay, universe, like you just dropped the answer right in my lap. It was it was like going into the Canada Day long weekend. So I went on their website, I booked a meeting with them, and they were actually open July 1st. I remember still to this day, like asking the owner, I'm like, did you mean to like close that day? Because I took the earliest time I could talk to them. And she's like, yeah, we totally forgot that it was Canada Day. Like you booked like an appointment. But I was like, whatever. I'm like, I was ready to go. So I remember getting on that call with her, and I was kind of like 80% in. I think with any coach, any new program, you're always like a little hesitant because there's obviously things that get sold to you that aren't as, especially in the weight category, the weight and health and wellness category. So nonetheless, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this girl a shot. I got to try something. And if it doesn't work out, I move on. If it does, it'll be the best decision I made. And it ended up being the best decision I made. It taught me macros. It taught me how to measure my food. It taught me how to know what nutrients I was getting. So it was not about like, oh, just eat steamed chicken and, broccoli for 3 weeks. It was like truly a lifestyle change. Like they're teaching women how to be healthy instead of going on some fad diet, and they use science. It's not something they've made up. It's truly how our bodies actually work. And they give you based on your weight, height, and your goals. So that has been truly like the best thing that I did. Because even now, 2 years later, I've actually been completely on my own. And one of my biggest determinations coming out of that program was, okay, now I want to do this as a lifestyle and not lose all that progress and all that work that I put in with them. So I set a really, really hard goal that I'm like, can I do this without, because we ended up doing a photo shoot in Miami at the end. Like if you go on my page, you'll get some cute bikini shots in there. But it was so fun. It was like being on Sports Illustrated. But I'm like, okay, now I have to do this. And obviously we love Instagram. We love our likes. I'm like, can I do this without validation? Can I do this without being an achievement, knowing I'm a competitive achiever? Can I do this without any of that? No, none of those little gold stars that I'm going to get. And I really pushed myself to do it for the longevity, for my health, for feeling good about myself. And I'm really proud of myself because 2 years later, I'm still doing it. I'm still using the tools that I gained and still seeing the success in all that. I think the other thing that I would say, like besides the actual physical component, which again, I really do think is so important to be healthy when you're in one of the highest stress jobs. Like I don't see how you don't take care of your health when you know you're in one of the highest stress jobs that there are. But then also my mental health is so important, and meditation is a huge part of my life. It's something my husband and I do. We've been to a Joe Dispenza conference or experience one of his wellness weekends in Switzerland a couple of years ago. We want to go to a week long. But meditation is the next unlock. Like if you've really mastered your personal growth, you're in control or want to be in control of your life, want to manifest, want to create your destiny, the meditation is a massive tool, and really truly understanding it. So that's been probably my biggest focus when it comes to personal development, has really been mastering meditation, which is a hard thing to do, but also so beautiful. And I wish it wasn't so hard because it's so incredible for people and for our health and for everything going on in this world. I wish it wasn't so hard because I hear so many people who don't want to do it, don't want to navigate it or figure it out. But I'm like, oh, the unlock is just beautiful. It's incredible.
Would you have any advice for people who would like to get into meditation? Because I think for a lot of people, they're interested, but it feels very overwhelming. And I think one of the biggest, I've done meditation in my past. I've kind of fallen off from it at the moment, but I think one of the biggest like misconceptions that people have is that you have to like turn your brain off. And if you have thoughts, then you're not doing it correctly. Which, this is a whole, like, honestly, we could probably talk about that for 2 hours. But just like basic advice, I guess, for someone who is interested in getting into that, but maybe feels, a little bit scared or nervous about that.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it like super basic, and just some like really easy things to think about. So one, everyone thinks they're bad at meditating. I'll start there. You're not bad at meditating. You're not like alone. Like you're the one person that can't meditate. We all think we're bad at meditating. Secondly, I would say that meditation is training. Right now, I would ask you, do you filter every thought that comes through your head? And most people would say, oh, I've never even thought about the fact that I could filter every thought, because that's where I was. So I would say that the goal of sitting down is that your brain will continue to get distracted. The only thing you need to do, especially when you're like just starting out, is just simply focus on bringing that thought back to neutral. Do not get upset at yourself. Do not think that you failed. Do not get up in a huff and like walk away from it. You're simply like when you're training your dog and you don't give the dog back just because it doesn't sit on the first try, like you keep training your dog how to sit. You're literally it. That's why people don't want to do it because it kind of sucks. In the beginning, you're kind of like, oh, this is great. I just have to keep bringing my brain back to neutral. But what you're doing is you're essentially becoming in control of your brain because what you might not realize right now is you don't have much control over your emotions and your thoughts. You're letting them kind of run rampant. You're letting them run on like predisposed experiences, and you continue to live in your past. You continue to respond to everything based on past experience. You continue to forecast what's going to happen based on past experience. So if you can really just focus on simply bringing your brain back and sitting there and saying, hey, body, I know you want to get up. I know you want to go do anything else but this. But if you can tell your body, like, unfortunately, like that's not going to happen because I'm in charge, you're not in charge. And you get through that day after day after day, you will change your life. Like, I know that sounds so crazy, but you become completely in control of your body, completely in control of your thoughts, your actions, and everything. And now you decide, do we get up or do we not? Because what is happening right now is your body is actually leading through trained behavior versus you making the decision to get up. And it is a dopamine hit or a desire to go do something, like Instagram, watch TV, go on your computer, answer an email. And then from there, if you can kind of get bought in on what I'm saying and maybe say, hey, actually, she's kind of onto something. I really do suggest tuning into Joe Dispenza because he has the largest database of scientific research on meditation. Most people don't want to meditate because they don't understand what they're doing or why it's good for them. Everyone thinks it's about being calm. So they're like, well, I'll just go to the gym if I want to be calm. And I've heard that like a million times. So I'm like, you know what, dig into Joe Dispenza, find out what you're actually doing, find out what's actually neurologically happening to you when you meditate. And I bet you'll be a lot more motivated to sit down and do it.
I love it. And it's so true. I think even like you give yourself grace with so many other things in life. And you also probably, try to like celebrate small wins in life. And it's the same thing with meditation. Like, let's say you try a 10-minute meditation session and your mind is going crazy for 9 of those minutes, but one time you catch yourself and try to like bring it back to neutral. That's a win, and you should celebrate it and you'll keep doing it. And the next time you might catch yourself doing that 3 times or 4 times. And I think from there it just grows. So it's been incredible talking to you. We wrap up every show with a hot take. We love our hot takes here at Powerhouse Women. So I'm curious, do you have any hot takes for us today?
Okay, I have a recent hot take, and I don't think you're going to expect me to say this, but
Okay.
the Dyson Airwrap, like, I'm sorry, can I just say, like, as we're coming up to maybe the holiday season, I don't know when our session is going to air. My hot take is that nothing should be that expensive and that hard to use. And the fact that women are all online telling us how many YouTube videos they've had to watch and how the curl doesn't even hold. And I say this because I got the Dyson and then all these videos, thank God for the Instagram algorithm, started pumping to me. So before I used it, I actually put it back in the box and I shipped it back. So I'm like, nothing in this world should be this hard. So kudos to the women that have figured it out. You are the 1%. You're out there crushing life. You should seriously consider being a hairdresser because you're probably more talented than you think you are. But to all the women suffering, I just want to let you know that it's not just you. These air ups clearly were not designed to make us feel good about ourselves. So that is my hot take. I don't know. Is that controversial? Like, I don't think we should be buying anybody this Dyson as a gift. It's not a gift. It's a curse.
I fully agree with you. I've never even attempted to use one. Like, even if I'm staying with a friend and they have one, I'm like, nope, not touching that thing. Like, that is far too advanced for me. I'm good with like my basic flat iron, my basic blow dryer. I think it's too much, go to the hair salon, get a
Yeah.
blowout. But like you said,
Yeah.
if you can do it, good for you. But I think like it does require an advanced level of skill. It's not something that everyone will just be able to use.
Yeah. Most of us are not certified to be purchasing the Dyson kit.
No, absolutely
That's
not.
my hot take.
I
That is
love
my
it.
hot take.
That's a good one, actually. That's a really good one. My hot take for the day is actually about Miami. It's something I've been thinking about often. And it might not seem like too much of a hot take to like the average person who maybe doesn't know Miami that well or doesn't really care about Miami. But for me, where like this is my home and this is my career, my hot take lately has been that Miami is not for everyone. Like, it's just not a place for everyone. And it has its faults, and like I can understand its faults. And not everyone is going to love this city or be happy here. And I think because I'm in real estate, like the content that I consume is mostly from realtors and a lot of other realtors in Miami. And it's just constantly like, Miami is the best place on earth. It's amazing. And so many people agree with that. It has a lot of pros, like it's great, but it has a lot of cons too. And I've lived here for 5 years now, and there's things that I see every day, and I'm just like, I get it. And people are starting to leave now, like people who moved here during the pandemic, a lot of them are moving out and realizing like this is not the place that they're going to call home forever. And that's okay. And I think I just get it. And we need to normalize like not making everything perfect when maybe it's not. I love this city, but it's not perfect. It has quirks and it's not for everyone.
Yeah, I think that's so important, especially with the amount of hype that Miami has. And if you've a really fun activity to do, because what I've learned traveling so much around the world is that cities have personality types. So to your point, you actually do match with a city or a couple cities. So if you've ever want to do a fun activity, like go on ChatGPT, either put your personality type in, like actually if you've done like a test, like you can even put your Enneagram personality in, you can describe yourself. Obviously it knows a lot about us already, and say, can you match me to like the top 3 cities that personality wise I would mesh the best with? Because every city is technically a personality type. So every city has pros and cons. Toronto has pros and cons. So I think that's so insightful and so true. And don't go to a city just because, like, don't go to Dubai just because everyone's hyped up on Dubai. Like, I love Dubai. We're going back for the holidays this year. But people ask me, and I always say, like, not for everybody. I love it, but I could see some people not liking it. So yeah, I think that's so accurate.
Hot takes.
Hot takes. This was so fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here today. Can you just quickly tell everyone where they can find you, where they can connect with you?
Yes, Haley __ Dawood on Instagram. Also, we have The Idea Hunter on Instagram as well. And of course, you can find our services at theideahunter.co. We do offer services across North America. So hope to hear from you.
Amazing. Thanks for being here, Haley.
Thanks, Carly. Bye.
That's a wrap on this episode of At the Table with Powerhouse Women. Thanks for tuning in. If you love today's conversation, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review.
Your support helps us keep pulling up more seats at the table.
Want to keep the conversation going? Join the movement at powerhousewomen.com/society.
And connect with us on Instagram at Powerhouse Women.
Until next time, keep showing up, keep building, and remember, there's always room at the table for you.